On June 12, 2026, a Men's World Cup match will be played on Canadian soil for the first time. The venue selected for this historic event is BMO Field, a stadium that currently seats roughly 30,000 people. FIFA, however, requires a minimum capacity of 45,000. That gap explains everything that follows. Over the next 2 years, this waterfront site will undergo yet another metamorphosis, consuming over $140 million in public and private funding. But to understand how a modest, temporary facility evolved into a World Cup host, we must look at the ground beneath it. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to TFC on the Road. Today we're going beyond the match and into the story behind the stadium itself, because BMO Field isn't just where Toronto FC plays. It's basically Toronto's soccer identity under construction. So how did we go from wind, metal bleachers, and temporary plans to a FIFA World Cup stage? The site at Exhibition Place has a habit of reinventing itself. For decades, this land was home to Exhibition Stadium, a sprawling, mist-shrouded concrete bowl that became infamous for its terrible sight lines and freezing winds. When it was finally demolished in 1999, the site lay dormant, a parking lot waiting for a purpose. If you know where to look, traces of the others are still visible, but the stadium that stands there today is a study in incremental ambition. It began as a temporary solution, a fiscal compromise to host the 2007 FIFA U20 World Cup. Today, it is the crown jewel of Canadian soccer infrastructure. This is the architectural evolution of BMO Field. Section 1. The Utilitarian Era, 2007 to 2014, when BMO Field opened its doors on April 28, 2007. It was defined by its austerity. Built on a shoestring budget of 62.9 million Canadian dollars, it was functionally a starter home for Major League Soccer in Toronto. The design was explicitly utilitarian. It featured 3 unroofed stands of aluminum bleachers, a generic field turf surface, and a capacity of just over 20,000. The aesthetics were secondary to the existence of the venue itself. Before 2007, the idea of a soccer-specific stadium in Canada was viewed with skepticism. The prevailing logic was that soccer should be played in oversized CFL stadiums or baseball parks. BMO Field broke that mold, but visually, it felt unfinished. There was no north stand, only a beer garden looking out toward the downtown skyline. The concourses were exposed to the elements and amenities were minimal. Yet, the atmosphere betrayed the architecture. The intimate, steep single-tier stands created a wall of noise that became the envy of the league. However, the limitations were immediate. The artificial turf was widely criticized by players and international managers. The lack of weather protection made early spring and late autumn matches a test of endurance for supporters. By 2010, minor adjustments were made. A small permanent stand was added to the north end, and crucially, a natural grass surface was installed. But as Toronto FC's valuation soared, the stadium's temporary feel began to clash with the club's ambition. The venue was profitable, but it was not elite. Section 2. The Major Expansion, 2014 to 2016. The turning point came in 2014. Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, committed to a massive renovation project, split into 2 phases that would fundamentally alter the stadium's silhouette. This was not a touch-up, it was a reconstruction. Phase 1 focused on capacity. An upper deck was added to the east stand, pushing the seating count to nearly 30,000. For the first time, the stadium gained verticality, shedding the look of a collegiate facility and beginning to resemble a proper European ground. Phase 2, completed in 2016, addressed the most glaring omission of the original design: the roof. 3 massive canopies were installed over the east, west, and south stands. From an engineering standpoint, this was complex. The roof is not supported by the stands themselves, but by 4 super columns located in the corners of the stadium. This independent structure allows the canopy to float above the seating bowl. The impact was twofold. Architecturally, it unified the disparate stands into a cohesive bowl. Acoustically, it trapped the noise, making the venue significantly louder. However, this expansion brought a controversial roommate. The renovation was designed to accommodate the Toronto Argonauts of the Canadian Football League. To fit the longer and wider CFL field, the north and south stands were re-engineered to be retractable. While soccer purists lamented the presence of gridiron lines and the slightly increased distance behind the goals, the engineering compromise was impressive. It turned a soccer-specific stadium into a true multi-purpose venue without sacrificing the intimacy of the primary tenant. By May 2016, BMO Field had evolved from an IKEA stadium to a world-class facility. Section 3, the World Cup Retrofit, 2024 to 2026. This brings us to the present challenge. FIFA's requirements for the 2026 World Cup are stringent, not just regarding capacity, but regarding media facilities, hospitality, and pitch quality. The 30,000 seats currently available are simply insufficient. To bridge the gap to 45,000, the city and MLSE have embarked on a $146 million project. The architectural solution is largely temporary. Massive additional seating structures will be erected in the north and south ends, effectively filling in the corners and extending the upper tiers. For supporters who have watched Toronto FC play here since 2007, the visual shift will feel strange. The open corners, which provide views of the city and the lake, will be plugged with steel and aluminum. The existing video boards will be removed to maximize seating density. Technically, these additions are designed to be dismantled. There is something slightly absurd about spending this much on infrastructure that will mostly disappear, leaving BMO Field close to its original size once the World Cup ends. However, the permanent legacy lies in the unseen details. The expansion budget covers a complete overhaul of the broadcast infrastructure, upgraded locker rooms, and the installation of a new, distinct hybrid grass system, a mix of synthetic fibers stitched into natural grass to withstand the traffic of the tournament. The finances of this phase are complex. Toronto taxpayers are covering approximately $123 million of the bill, with MLSE contributing the remaining capital and covering operating cost overruns. In exchange, the city gets a stadium capable of hosting the biggest sporting event on the planet, if only for a few weeks. Section 4, the 2026 configuration. When the first whistle blows on June 12, 2026, the stadium will be unrecognizable compared to its 2007 iteration. The media tribune will be 3 times its normal size, occupying prime seating areas. The hospitality suites will be extended. The visual identity of the stadium will be swallowed by FIFA branding. It is a long way from the bare aluminum benches of the inaugural season. The site keeps reinventing itself, and each version leaves something behind for the next. BMO Field's evolution is a reflection of the sport's growth in North America. It started as a cautious experiment, grew into a permanent fixture, and is now being stretched to its absolute limits to welcome the world. Whether the investment in temporary seating pays off remains a debate for the economists. But for the architect, the transformation is undeniable. Thanks for following along with TFC on the road. If you enjoyed this update and want more Toronto FC content, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. We'll be back soon with another edition covering the latest news, matches, and behind-the-scenes stories. Until then, stay safe and keep cheering on the Reds.